The rain fell in heavy sheets as 34-year-old Marcus Rivera hurried through the empty streets of downtown Riverside, clutching his toolbox and hoping to make it home before the storm got worse. His work shirt was already soaked through and his boots splashed through puddles that reflected the dim street lights of the industrial district. Marcus had been working late at the warehouse fixing a broken conveyor belt that could not wait until morning. As a single father to 6-year-old Danny, every overtime I mattered, even when it meant walking home through weather like this because his old truck was in the shop again. The sound of crying cut through the noise of the rain, stopping Marcus in his tracks. It was not just any crying. It was the desperate, frightened sobbing of a child mixed with a woman's voice trying to offer comfort. The sounds were coming from the narrow alley between two abandoned buildings. Marcus hesitated for only a moment before moving toward the alley. His protective instincts, honed by years of single parenthood, overrode any concerns for his own safety. What he found made his heart race with both anger and compassion. A young woman, perhaps in her mid-20s, sat huddled against a brick wall in the pouring rain. Her blonde hair was matted and disheveled. Her white dress was torn and stained, and even in the dim light, Marcus could see bruises on her arms and face. In her arms, she held a little girl who appeared to be about 2 years old, clutching a small stuffed animal. And crying softly. Marcus called out gently, not wanting to frighten them further. "Are you hurt? Do you need help?" The woman looked up at him with wide, terrified eyes. She instinctively pulled her daughter closer, clearly unsure whether this stranger represented another threat or potential salvation. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. "He said he would find us. We cannot go back." Marcus knelt down slowly, keeping his movements calm and non-threatening. "Who said he would find you? Are you running from someone?" The woman nodded, tears mixing with the rainwater on her face. "My husband. He has been hurting us, and tonight I finally took Emma and left. But we have nowhere to go, and I am afraid he will track us down." Marcus felt a surge of protective anger toward whoever had hurt this mother and child, but he kept his voice gentle. "My name is Marcus Rivera. I live about 6 blocks from here with my son Danny. You and your daughter need to get out of this rain and somewhere safe." "I cannot pay you," the woman said quickly. "I only have the clothes we are wearing and a few dollars in my purse. I am not asking for payment. I am asking if you will let me help you get warm and dry and then we can figure out the next steps." The woman studied Marcus's face in the streetlight, clearly struggling between desperation and the weariness that comes from being betrayed by someone who was supposed to protect her. "I am Sarah," she said finally. "And this is Emma." "Hello, Sarah." "Hello, Emma," Marcus said softly, offering a gentle smile to the little girl. "Would you like to come to my house where it is warm and safe?" 20 minutes later, Marcus was helping Sarah and Emma into his small but clean apartment above the corner market. The space was modest but comfortable with toys scattered around the living room and children's drawings taped to the refrigerator. Clear evidence of a home where a child was loved and cared for. "Danny is at my neighbor's house tonight," Marcus explained as he brought them towels and dry clothes. "Mrs. Chen watches him when I have to work late. You can use my bedroom tonight and I will sleep on the couch." "Marcus, you do not even know us," Sarah protested. "Why are you doing this?" Marcus paused, thinking about how to explain the instinct that had driven him to help without hesitation. "Because 3 years ago, when Dan less than greater than S mother died, I learned what it felt like to be alone and scared with a child depending on me. Different circumstances, but I remember how much it meant when people chose to help instead of looking the other way." Over the next few days, as Sarah and Emma recovered from their ordeal, Marcus learned more about their situation. Sarah had been trapped in an abusive marriage with a wealthy businessman who had used his money and connections to isolate her from family and friends. When his violence had escalated to include Emma, Sarah had finally found the courage to flee with nothing but the clothes on their backs. "The police will not help," Sarah explained as they sat in Marcus's living room while the children napped. "Richard has friends in the department, and money talks louder than truth in this town." Marcus felt helpless in the face of such systemic corruption, but he was determined to do whatever he could to keep Sarah and Emma safe. He had seen how Emma had begun to smile and play with Danny less than greater than wise toys, and how Sarah was slowly beginning to relax in the security of his humble home. On the 4th day, there was a knock at Marcus's door that made his blood run cold. Through the peephole, he could see 2 police officers standing in the hallway, their expressions serious and official. "Mr. Rivera," one of the officers said when Marcus opened the door. We need to speak with you about Sarah and Emma Watson. Marcus's heart pounded as he invited the officers inside, fearing that Sarah's husband had somehow tracked them down and used his influence to force their return. Sir, the first officer began, we understand that you have been harboring a woman and child who are wanted in connection with a serious crime. Officers, if this is about domestic violence, Sarah is the victim here, not the criminal. The second officer held up his hand. Mr. Rivera, I think there has been a misunderstanding. Sarah Watson is not wanted for committing a crime. She is wanted because she is a key witness in a federal investigation into Richard Watson's business practices. Marcus felt confused and relieved at the same time. I do not understand. Richard Watson has been under FBI investigation for money laundering and fraud for the past 2 years. Sarah's testimony about his financial activities is crucial to the case. When she disappeared 4 days ago, we feared that Watson had silenced her to prevent her from testifying. The officer continued, Mr. Rivera, you may have saved more than just Sarah and Emma's lives. By giving them a safe place to hide, you protected the key witness in a case that will bring down one of the largest criminal enterprises in the state. But Sarah said the police would not help her because of her husband's connections. That was true at the local level, the officer admitted. Watson had corrupted several officers in the city police department, but the federal investigation was conducted entirely outside of local law enforcement. Sarah had no way of knowing that help was available. Later that evening, after the FBI agents had taken Sarah's statement and assured her that she and Emma would be placed in protective custody until the trial, Sarah sat with Marcus on his couch trying to process everything that had happened. Marcus, she said quietly, I need you to understand something. The night you found us in that alley, I had given up hope. I thought we were going to die in the rain and that Emma would never have a chance at a normal life. You are both safe now. That is what matters. But it is more than that. You did not just save our lives. You reminded me that there are still good people in the world, people who choose to help others without expecting anything in return. Marcus looked over at Danny and Emma, who had fallen asleep together on the living room floor, surrounded by picture books and toy cars. You know what you reminded me of, Sarah? You reminded me that sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply be brave enough to ask for help when we need it. 6 months later, Marcus stood in a federal courthouse, watching as Richard Watson was sentenced to 25 years in prison based largely on Sarah's courageous testimony. The conviction had dismantled a criminal network that had been operating for over a decade. Sarah, who had been relocated to a safe city with Emma, had started a new life with the help of victim assistance programs. She had sent Marcus a letter with a photo of Emma playing in their new backyard, smiling and healthy and free from fear. Daddy, Danny said as they walked down the courthouse steps. Miss Sarah said in her letter that Emma is going to start school soon. That is right, buddy. She is going to have a normal, happy childhood now. Daddy, are we heroes? Marcus smiled, thinking about the night when a simple decision to help someone in need had changed multiple lives and helped bring a dangerous criminal to justice. Danny, we are just people who chose to do the right thing when someone needed help. Sometimes that is all it takes to be a hero. As they walked home together, Marcus reflected on how one rainy night had taught him that the most extraordinary acts often begin with the most ordinary choices. The decision to stop and help strangers in an alley had led to justice for victims, safety for the innocent, and the reminder that individual acts of courage can have far-reaching consequences. Sometimes the most important battles are won not by police officers or federal agents, but by ordinary people who choose compassion over convenience, who risk their own safety to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The struggling single father who had rescued a woman and child from the rain had discovered that heroism is not about having special powers or resources. It is about recognizing when someone needs help and being willing to provide it even when you are not sure how the story will